What's up, people? It's been a long holiday season. Shout out to y'all for making it through, and happy holidays to everyone. But this week's podcast is about Denise's favorite comfort shows. So we'll be right back in just a minute. All right. So what do people watch when they need something on in the background, or what helps them sleep at night? So it got me to thinking about what my list of favorite shows to put on, even, to get through the work from home day. And I have come up with said list, and for me, I think these are great. They might appear on your list too. If you haven't seen them, definitely get out there and watch them, because I am definitely judging you if you haven't seen them. A lot of these are older shows, so you should be able to find them somewhere. But the first one comes to me. It's an oldie but goodie. The Golden Girls. When I was a kid, my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she spent a lot of time watching TV while I was at school. And sometimes she would sit and watch the Golden Girls, and it never, ever occurred to me to even pay attention to what they were talking about. I never understood why she was interested in four old women. But, that's what it's like being a kid and not knowing what you're talking about. So there you have it. It wasn't until I got much older, out of high school, in college, many years later, that I ended up talking to a friend of mine, and the Golden Girls was one of her favorite comfort shows. And when I started watching it with her, I didn't realize how witty and entertaining and thoughtful it was. I did not know there could be that many sex jokes between four old women, but now I'm an old lady, so there we go. Everybody has a favorite character. If I say that Dorothy is my favorite character, that should shock no one. The sarcasm of Dorothy lives in my psyche. She's like my spirit animal. So there you have it. One of my favorite things is being on a work call, probably about a year or two ago, and one of the ladies at work made a Golden Girls reference, and she basically was like, none of you young people know where that's from. Ma'am, we all know where it's from. We watch TV Land. We watch different things. And plus, the Golden Girls is on Hulu. So if you have the Disney bundle or Hulu, then it's there. You can watch it. They even have the Golden Palace for now. So there's that. But the show ran for 7 seasons. I put it on from the very beginning. I don't really have any episodes I don't really watch that often. Anything with Stan in it, where Dorothy and Stan are going back and forth, love it. The episodes with Blanche's brother, my favorite. And poor Rose, she's just supremely naive. So there's always a situation that Rose has gotten them into, like deciding to babysit, which I thought was weird. So there's that. But yeah, the Golden Girls, peeps. Don't ever sleep on it. I tend to get in my bed, do my nightly routine, get in my bed, turn on my TV. I do have a TV in my room. I didn't realize until recently that was controversial, but I do have a TV in my room. Because I like to watch TV and fall asleep to it. So, I was the oldest of 4 children. And so when the siblings moved away, I needed talking in the background because I was used to them making noise, so the silence got to me. So I have a TV in my bedroom. But anyway, I turn on the Golden Girls, rub my feet together, and watch until I drift off. I've probably seen it all the way through, probably about 15, 20 times. So many, it's one of those go-to things that's automatic for me. So there's that. And what do we have next on the list? But Fraiser. I have a love of all things TV show that involve Kelsey Grammer. So from Cheers to Fraiser to Girlfriends, anything that he was involved in, I've probably watched. But, you know, the first 11 seasons, because I'm currently going through on Paramount Plus and watching the revival or the new Fraiser, which I think is still pretty good. But I do enjoy curling up or, you know, whatever I'm doing. Sometimes I'll be doing, you know, workouts or whatever, and watching Fraiser from any point to the end of the show. Trying to watch him come and back to Seattle, to his hometown, and be with his cantankerous father and deal with his fussy brother and, you know, all of these people in and out of his house. It's just, for me, a bundle of laughs. I always thought it was highbrow comedy, but it is kind of slapstick, which my mom points out all the time. Because why can't this man throw a dinner party? Like, period, ever. Him and his brother try to throw dinner parties all throughout the show, and it is a running gag. It never goes well. And then in the end, when Niles and Daphne get together, she still can't throw a dinner party. It goes horribly awry, which can only happen when you're dealing with the Crane boys. So, with that being said, 11 seasons is a lot for me to be able to take a bite out of at any given point. But, I mean, when you have episodes like Ham Radio, where, you know, being set in 93, 94 and into the millennium, you know, he's on the radio doing his psychiatry thing, but he gets to write like a murder kind of screenplay thing that they act out on the radio, which I think is great. If you know anything about me, you know I love a good audiobook. So, not to that. And again, things go horribly awry. So, it's a great episode. My other favorite is Moon Dance, where Niles gets the opportunity to take Daphne out. And he had been pining, you know, for her for the longest time. And it gives you kind of an idea as to what they would be like as a couple. And of course, the dancing sequence is great. There's a lot of great things that happen to Niles, which doesn't always happen to Niles on the show. The seal who came to dinner, because again, anytime that you throw a dinner party, nonsense ensues, because what else would happen at a beachfront dinner party that you're throwing at your house than a dead seal showing up? And these two can't do anything right. So, and they're too prissy to be able to take care of the dead seal in any real way that makes sense. So there's that. But, and I think everybody talks about Ski Lodge, which is great. Everybody loves somebody. Does this person return their feelings? How does that work? And Martin is in the background, like making rum. And it all comes to a head at the very end because each of them is pining after someone else. And there's something about Fraiser and Niles' rivalry where Fraiser thinks he's superior, but when you watch the show, you realize that Niles is the one that has, functioning relationships and knows how to have functioning relationships with women. And Niles is also the one that's probably the better psychiatrist. He gives better advice. And, but yeah, in the Ski Lodge episode, Fraiser swears up and down that nobody is flirting with Niles, but several people are flirting with Niles. So it was a blow to Fraiser's ego to find out nobody was after him. And then the two Mrs. Cranes, where Daphne takes it upon herself because she doesn't want to tell an ex of hers that's coming into town that she doesn't want to be with him. So she decides to pretend to be Niles' wife, and he is all okay with that. So, and again, hilarity ensues. So any one of those episodes I'm put on and it'll go on in the background and I'll laugh every time like it's the first time. So there's that. All right. So what is my next episode here? Or my next show here? Let's see. My next show is definitely going to be Living Single. This should come as a shock to no one, especially if you've been paying attention to recent things that have been said online. But I was never allowed to watch Living Single or any show that didn't come on the Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, or Cartoon Network. So a lot of my friends in high school had watched Living Single and I had never seen it. And it wasn't until I had moved out of my mom's house and in with a couple of roommates that I was able to sit and watch Living Single from start to finish for the first time. And I can't remember where we watched it, but I was watching it. Probably took me about a week to get through the 5 seasons. And it has become a staple in my house. Like if I don't have anything going on, probably Living Single is going on in the background. I'll never miss it. The Black cast, the fact that all of them were working professionals, Kyle in the stock market, Khadijah running her own magazine, Sinclair being an actress, Regine being a buyer for a boutique, and Max being a lawyer, Overton, running and overseeing the Brownstone. That was a big deal to see at a younger age. So peak 90s sitcom right there. Black sitcom right there. So, a lot of people say they don't like season 5. I will say that it's not my favorite, in comparison to the other 4. But there are some episodes in season 5 that I really enjoy watching. One being the 3 men and a Buckeye. I think that's the name of the episode, where Overton takes Trip and the guys to Ohio to watch the Ohio State Buckeyes game. Trip is a Michigan fan. You find out that Sinclair doesn't really like football because she was only pretending to because she liked Overton. I really like that episode. I never miss it. But if you had to ask me my favorite, it would definitely be, there's a couple of episodes, anything with Heavy D on it was always my favorite. They had the best guest stars, which I think is a big deal in 90s sitcom. So, Heavy D, Naughty by Nature, Grant Hill, just everybody. But if I had to say living single, in the first season, there's a lot of episodes where there, the Thanksgiving episode where Kyle is dating the co-worker of Khadijah and Sinclair, and she doesn't want anything serious. Of course, I got the bracelet back. It's fantastic every time. Living Single with Friends is the episode where Regine is dating Julian from a different world. And she decides that she could pretend to be a mommy. Girl, that's a lot of work. And you find that out at the end of the episode. The break-in is always a good episode. And I always find that funny, too, because The Golden Girls has a break-in episode, which is also hilarious. But somebody steals Regine's purse, and all hell breaks loose from there. So they're trying to determine whether they're going to be living scared or whatever. They get an alarm system. They want an attack dog. It just escalated from there. But they really were robbed, so it was a big deal. But the scene where the guy is breaking into the house and Queen Latifah goes downstairs with her nunchucks, and Regine and Sinclair are arguing about what they should bring downstairs to help with the attacker. Now, Khadijah, Queen Latifah's character, has been downstairs for like 5 minutes. So if like y'all are going to help, what are y'all waiting on? But they're like, oh, I'm going to get this book. And Sinclair's like, are you going to beat him down with the Bible? Yes, over and over again. And I mean, the Bible that she pulled from this room is freaking huge. I was like, what? Okay, whatever. But sure. And then I think Regine asked, like, what are you going to do? Beat her down with isotonas? It's fantastic. So, and then they scare the hell out of each other. They don't know who's in the house and, all of that. So, I stand by the fact that good sitcoms have a break-in episode. So, it is what it is. Or at least a running gag if you're talking about Fraiser. But, yeah, there's that. So let me think. The Talk Showdown one, because I cannot believe y'all would get on TV and tell the world your problems, but whatever. It's very 90s, so they didn't have social media. Now y'all tell each other your problems all the time, unprovoked. So there's that. But the episode where Regine moves out and Max and Kyle are getting together, the shakedown, and then they all go visit Regine at her apartment. And everybody is kind of a caricature of the cast on Living Single. So those are all great episodes. I always rewatch them. Grumpy Old Man, where Max is trying to help Kyle work through the fact that he's turning 30. There was a very real concept of 30 being the end of your life, especially in the 90s. So, because I think the nanny had an episode where she was like, I'm getting old. And ma'am, you're 30. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, that's also a favorite of mine. Because are your friends really your friends if they don't throw you a party like Peeps did for Kyle? I don't know. But trust me, if I'm in bed and I'm looking for a comfort show, it's probably going to be Living Single. So there's that. All right. So next we got A Different World, which had the same writer on it as Living Single. She was a writer. Yvette Lee Bowser wrote for A Different World for a little bit before she did Living Single. So I was going to watch them both either way, so it didn't matter. But that was always a plus. But A Different World was a big deal because I didn't know prior to watching that as a kid, I was probably like 8 or 9, that people went away to school at something called college or university until I seen that show. And I swore that I was going to be able to go to Hillman College and meet Dwayne and Whitley and Freddie and Ron and Julissa and everyone. And Kimmy, everyone. So, my mother shattered that dream because she had bought me some flip up glasses. I just knew I was Dwayne Wayne, but she had to sit me down one day and say, Hillman College is not really a thing. I was like, you're lying. There's no way. And so, no, it had to be proven to me at some point that, this is just a TV show. So there's that. But as a kid, I watched it several times, and it used to come on at the same time every day, especially during the summer break. It would come on at the same time every day, 2 episodes or whatever. And it would just roll to the end, and then it would start all over again. So prior to social media, I had probably seen it all the way through about 30 times. I lived for me some Dwayne and Whitley, okay? I lived for their whole love storyline. I lived for the romance that was Dwayne and Ron. Freddie being the resident flower child, sticking up for everything that she believed in, even though people thought she was weird. Whitley thought she was weird. And the fact that she never cared that people thought she was weird, I thought that was great. But my favorite episodes of A Different World, they're like, you can't say the whole thing, right? Because that would be where I would go with this. But A Different World, the favorite episodes start in season 2, where Whitley is trying to work on her paper in the computer lab, and she has a fantasy about being with Dwayne, and that freaks her out. And that episode makes me laugh all the time. The episode where everybody is trying to be Gladys Knight's backup singer, still to this day, it is a favorite episode of mine. They always had episodes that were meaningful. So you had, Cats in the Cradle, where, they're talking about racism and Dean Cain is a special guest, all of these things. Misunderstanding, where Shaza writes this book, her guide to understanding the Hillman man. And it just causes a divide between the guys and the girls at the college. Pride and Prejudice, where, Whitley is trying to buy jewelry for her father, and the woman doesn't want to sell her the jewelry, doesn't want to take it out of the case. She thinks Whitley is beneath her because she's black, and Freddie has to point that out. And like the older that I get, the more disappointed that I am that at some point in the episode, Whitley is like, I have the money, I'm going to spend it just to prove to this woman, whatever. But Freddie is like, girl, bye. Love that. It happened one night where Kim and her boyfriend of that time period think that they might be pregnant. And it was weird because Kim had taken over the room and didn't want Whitley there at all. I'm like, man, go ahead. And don't even get me started in season 5 where Gina is dating that guy that's abusive to her and all of these things. So I just love this show. And I don't know, I'm sad that I didn't get that exact experience when I went off to college because it set the bar high. And I think that since I started watching that show, I knew I wanted to go to college. So I can credit a different world with that. So that is definitely, last time I checked, it was on HBO, but they're moving stuff around so much I can never tell. But anytime I get a chance to watch it, I definitely do. So there's that. All right, so we're down to the nitty gritty here. And if you know anything about me, you know how much I love cartoons. Still to this day. I have people that always tell me, I can't believe you watch cartoons. I don't really watch cartoons. I'm here to tell you, I don't care. It has no bearing on what I enjoy watching. So, if it's entertaining to me, I'll watch it. So it is what it is. But the first thing that comes to mind that people should know about me is that I'm a huge, huge Scooby Doo fan. When I was a very young kid, I always knew I wanted a dog. And I think that my mother, being, the stay-at-home mother that she was for a very long time, she works full-time now, but for a long time, she was a stay-at-home mom. And I just knew I was never going to convince her to get us a dog. And then I got one at like 13, but that's another story for another time. At a very young age, I was obsessed with the idea of having a pet, mostly a dog. And that was because I spent a lot of time watching Scooby Doo. So my mother had very strict rules about what I could watch. Since Scooby Doo came out when she was a kid, she knew what it was about. I was allowed to watch it. And Scooby Doo came on at 7:00 and then again at 7:30. At the end of that, I had to be in bed. I had an 8:00 bedtime, so I could, for a very long time, set my life to Scooby Doo. And when I say that, people always ask me, like, do you still watch it now? Like, I haven't watched anything since A Pup Named Scooby Doo, which is by far my favorite iteration of Scooby Doo, by the way. The Scooby Doo movies, today Scooby Doo meets Josie and the Pussycats, which was definitely one of my favorites. When I found out that I could put videos on my iPod, the first two things that went on there were Scooby Doo and Josie and the Pussycats. So, which essentially are the same thing. But Scooby Doo, Where Are You? The Scooby Doo show, Scooby and Scrappy Doo, I have watched. I can tolerate it. And A Pup Named Scooby Doo. So, and the Scooby Doo movies. So, if they've met the Harlem Globetrotters, they've met Sonny and Cher. I think I watched in a hotel room when I went to Canada the new Scooby Doo movies, where like they've met Chris Paul and different things, and I think it's great. I'll always watch Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, I think I watched with my niece. Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. I mean, yeah, man, I'm into it. So, yeah, I think it was my obsession with wanting to have a pet. It entertained me to see him eat so much. Although as an adult now, you wonder if you want a pet that eats that much, because it's coming out of somebody's pocket. But, what have you. But yeah, a pup named Scooby Doo, I watch it all the time. Like most recently, like 3 days ago, somebody asked me, who's supposed to be close to me, somebody asked me, I said, hey, they're taking a pup named Scooby Doo off Amazon Prime. And I'm kind of annoyed about that. And in response, the person asked me, I mean, yeah, but how often do you watch that? I was left questioning how close this person and I really were. But yes, my absolute favorite villains. I have some Funko Pops here that are dedicated to Scooby Doo. And a lot of people come into my office area and they're like, who is this supposed to be? Ugh, uncultured. But the creeper from Scooby Doo, Where Are You? What a Shocking Ghost from the Scooby Doo show. And, the creepy clown from Bedlam in the Big Top from Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Watch the pretty coin of gold, and you will do as you are told. You are brave, and that's a fact. So you will do the high wire act. Any episode of the Scooby Doo show that had Scooby Dum does not get enough respect. He was one of my favorite additions to the show. I think he should have been in more than 4 episodes. Because if I remember correctly, he was in the gruesome game of Gator Ghoul, the Headless Horseman, the Chiller Diller movie thriller, and Vampires, Bats, and Scaredy Cats, something like that. And you have to love that, at least on the Scooby Doo show, a lot of them rhymed. A lot of the titles rhymed. But as a kid, I think my favorite thing about a pup named Scooby Doo is I grew up during a time when they did this thing where they tried to like babyfy all of your favorite Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So you had the Flintstone kids, the Tom and Jerry kids, and a pup named Scooby Doo. And me, I watched it all because I really didn't have permission to watch anything else. So, but as a kid, you really enjoy the dance breaks, and even when my niece and nephew were here for the holidays and I put it on, they know it's my favorite show and they kind of watch it. They think it's kooky, but they always dance during the dance break. So, Scooby continues to be reincarnated. It continues to see longevity because it's just a great show. I was into mysteries as a kid and even as an adult, and I think this is where it started. If I just had a dog and a magnifying glass, I'd start my own detective agency. So there you have it. But I think all of the iterations on Scooby are on HBO Max for now. So I think I've gone through a lot of them. I've watched a lot of the movies. So, yeah. Love me some Scooby-Doo. Continuing with my cartoony comfort shows. And in the spirit of Sonic 3, I started watching Sonic Boom probably about 5 years ago because at the time my nephew was 6 and he found it on Hulu and started watching it. And even at that time, it had already been on in reruns and things like that. But he was watching it because he loves Sonic. And again, another thing with younger people in my family is they find things that I used to enjoy or we used to enjoy as kids, and they want to talk to us about it. So one of the things that I get talked to about is Sonic the Hedgehog. And I tell him, like, I played the video games, I did this, and I got to show him Sonic 2, which it took me and my brother forever to beat on the Sega Genesis. And we had a TV that would cut off periodically, right? Like, and then you couldn't get it on for like 24, 48 hours at a time. And then if you could get it on, then you could never turn it off, or else you never get it back on again. So we would sit there and sleep in shifts because we had to beat this game. So our history is rich with all things Sonic and all things Shadow. And, you know, we had a Dreamcast that had all of these games. So, you know, and then for the holidays, I took my nephew to see Sonic 3. Great movie. Go see it. If you haven't already, definitely do that. But when he was 6, he was watching Sonic Boom. And he had watched like Sonic Underground and the original Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons with Jaleel White. And I remember watching those as a kid and being like, man, these are great. Watching them with him, I was like, man, these are old, but they're still great. You know, it is what it is. Sonic Boom was a fresh take, and it is hilariously funny. I was not prepared for that. They did an episode that's like centered around the book Misery by Stephen King, where Sonic has this really obsessed fan. They have, you know, the character Dave the intern that works at Mad Burger. The fact that they eat at a place called Mad Burger is hilarious to me. Not really sure that they have a rivalry with Eggman more than it's like a weird kind of give and take. There's an episode where like Eggman's robots go on strike. They play with this idea that Sonic and Amy are in a relationship, but really not. They don't ever say, because they're never going to, but it's hilarious. But of course, Knuckles is always my favorite. In Sonic Boom, he is less than intelligent, but he's fantastic nonetheless. And the fact that he's voiced by Travis Willingham sets my heart on fire. I love everything about it. I'm sad that it was only 2 seasons. I want it to be brought back immediately. I need more of that in my life. So, it was one of those things where you turn it on and you watch it and, you know, you watch it with the other children in the room, and then the children kind of wander away and you're stuck watching the show. So I watched it to the very end, and every now and then, if I just need kind of noise in the background, I'll put Sonic Boom on and I will laugh every time like it's the first time. That's a common theme here. If I'm going for laughter, or like if I've watched or read something heavy, I'll probably put on one of my comfort shows because I need to laugh. Okay. So there you have it. Sonic Boom, everyone, which is also on Hulu. And I think Netflix. So if you're looking for that, it's out there. One other thing I got back into watching is I got Paramount Plus, where all of the Nickelodeon shows hang out. So I started watching like things like Heathcliff again, As Told by Ginger, Hey Arnold. But I think my favorite is Nickelodeon's Doug. But Doug in general, because I did have Disney Plus for the longest time. So I watched like Disney's Doug. And I realized that for some reason I had been overly critical when Doug moved to Disney. But the show is pretty okay. But it's not like the original. So I go there for the first 4 seasons of Doug. And if you're not familiar with Doug, you should be. But if you're not familiar with Doug, he's an 11-year-old boy, Douglas Yancey Funny, who moves to Bluffington. At the start of the series, he's not interested in moving. He's the new kid. He's having to learn the lay of the land. And it's about his life in Bluffington as an 11-year-old. And he gets into trouble. He's forced to have to tell the truth. All of these things. He has a vivid imagination. He has a journal. It's probably why I have so many journals. Okay. Just documenting my thoughts. Doodling, drawing comics. That's what Doug does. So it was something that my mother and I watched together because my mother is big into watching cartoons. She's a very big Flintstones fan, very big Jetsons fan. And so Doug was something we watched together when we could watch TV together. My mom had a lot going on. So when we could watch TV together, we watched Doug. And I find myself now still watching it. I was so glad to find it somewhere because for the longest time, they didn't even have it on DVD. So, I think it is out on DVD now where you can get it, but man, I love that show. So sometimes I go in between apps and I'm like Nickelodeon Doug all the way into the very end, which is great. I often wonder if Patty and Doug get together. In my mind, they do. In my fan fiction, they grow up. They go to college. He's an animator. They get married. They have children. It's happily ever after. That's how it happens in my mind. So, whatever. But I don't ever miss it. And I think that sitting down and watching things with my niece and nephew always puts things into perspective because they always ask questions like, does he always daydream? He does. Does he always think things are worse than they are? At 11, I did too. So, yeah. Is his sister weird? Absolutely. Does his family love him? Also, absolutely. Although in Disney's Doug, his parents have another baby. They name her Dirt Bike. Absolutely not, people. But other than that, great show. On Paramount Plus, go watch it. And I think I'm going to round this out with what people would call a guilty pleasure. But since I don't care what people think, I have no guilty pleasures. So I started during a little before COVID, but started during COVID watching The Property Brothers. And I love everything Drew and Jonathan. I love everything Home Makeover. When I first started watching HGTV, though, I used to watch House Hunters and be yelling at them for choosing the wrong house. But now that I know how that show kind of works in theory, I've been less inclined to kind of watch it. But Property Brothers, love it. Drew is the realtor. Jonathan is the contractor. Actually, it's a bit deeper than that, even though, like, if you know about them, it's a bit deeper than that because they each do more than whatever label I'm trying to put on them. But anyway, they're very funny. They know how to tackle a problem. They know how to get things done in a set amount of time, which I love. Watching them kind of tear down a house and then rebuild it. It's my new obsession. I saw an episode where the lady was getting her house revitalized by Jonathan. And she was like, I saw this nice vase and I thought it would work with the decor. And Jonathan's like, I think that's an urn. And it like had ash in it. But you never know how much of the stuff is staged and what isn't. So what have you. But they have several shows. I think I watched the original Property Brothers, which was them buying a fixer-upper house and then Jonathan fixing it up, so to speak. Because if you watch enough home makeover shows, then you know that they usually really focus on like the kitchen kind of living room areas. They may redo a bathroom, but bedrooms and things, there's not a lot that they do with those. So, there's certain areas that they stick to. Buying and selling, I was watching, and that was trying to get people the top buck for their house while simultaneously getting them into another house. So, Jonathan is fixing up the house that they currently live in, and Drew's putting it on the market while also buying them a house. It's a lot going on. Same stuff though. And then, brother versus brother. I watch The Property Brothers at Home. I watch Property Brothers Forever Home. I started watching Back by the Bros because that's on HBO. So anything that kind of has their face on it, I'm going to go for. So those are my comfort shows in a nutshell. My poor mom is probably sick of watching The Property Brothers. And my mother is not sentimentally attached to things or houses. So she always thinks it's weird that people are not just selling their houses and moving into something that works better for them. So, and I always have to say, like, these people have family living on the cul-de-sac. They don't want to sell their house and move, and she's like, whatever. But yeah, these are my comfort shows. And I'm probably going to pick one of these to watch tonight as I fall asleep. It's probably going to be a pup named Scooby Doo, by the way. Something that I could follow and drift off and then jump back into when I can, But I wanted to let people know what I qualify as a comfort show or what keeps me going, because there was a whole discourse online about what shows that have the rewatchability factor and how many times do you rewatch them before they become a comfort show and all of these things. So these are mine. Definitely tell me yours in the comments, in the reviews or whatever. Let me know. And next time I'll talk about my favorite movie series that also bring me comfort that I probably have rewatched way too many times. So until next time, peeps.